let me begin to briefly introduce our speaker, László Rajk. Now, it's a very difficult challenge that I faced when I realized that I have to introduce him, because I have been a close friend of his for 45 years. I know an awful lot about him, too much. And how do I filter out what I should say, what is pertinent? It's a difficult challenge. László's life is like a cinema itself. A movie might be made of him one day rather than him engaging in the cinematographic arts. So I will just very briefly, instead of getting into a long presentation of his attributes, I will just briefly scan what I think or what I consider to be the important attributes that you would like to know about and I would introduce him to you. I think László, certainly for me and for the people who know him, epitomizes the artist who is a social activist, an artist who is not simply engaged in l'art pour l'art, but is interested in the broader social issues and the turbulence of history and the challenge of trying to make a difference to improve the human existential condition. So that's one thing that I wanted to say about him. He's not simply a filmmaker, he's not simply an architect, he's not simply a writer, but he's also a human rights, a civil rights activist, a fighter for democracy, and for the recognition or respect for the dignity of our fellow human beings. In terms of trying to characterize his oeuvre, his body of work, again, it's a little difficult, but I don't think that he will mind, at least I hope he won't mind, if I define it as radical eclecticism. As I said, he is known in the world of theater, set design, writing, teaching, civil rights, a whole range of activities, and many of his products, many of his creations, or rather the common denominator to his creation, is a frontal assault on conventionality. He builds houses that are on their side. He has walls that are crooked. Hope nobody thinks of Crooked Hillary. Consequence of that. So he has very unusual tastes and designs, and all of his work I find magnificent. That if you can get on the internet and look at his work, you would probably be as dazzled by it as I have been for a long time. László, one of the interesting things that I should tell you about him is that he is no stranger to Montreal. He studied here at McGill University. He got his architecture master's degree just up the street from us. So in a way, this is a little bit of a homecoming for him. He hasn't been in Montreal for quite some time. I haven't seen him for 6 years, and I'm sure you will be welcoming him with warmth and appreciation. I want to say just a couple of things about his cinematic activities. He participated in roughly 50 films, international films, Hungarian films, and worked alongside some of the best-known, internationally well-known film directors, Costa Gavras, of course Ridley Scott, Miklos Jancsó, Béla Tarr. The list is a long one, and especially of late has been the recipient of a number of highly meritorious awards. He was the artistic director, we all know, of the Son of Saul. He won an award for his work in The Martian. He won all kinds of awards for Bela Tarr's movie at Cannes, the Man from London, or the film, what's the Man from London and the Turin Horse.
Turin Horse.
So he has lots of awards. Amongst his awards is the highest artistic award given to an artist, not him alone, others, for their artistic creativity, the Kossuth Prize in Hungary. There's another Kossuth Prize winner in this room, sitting here in front of me, Ákos Kertész, who I agree is with us. And I'm not going to now list all of the awards in France, in Poland, in various parts of the world. Suffice it to say that he's a highly recognized artist. I want to say just now, in closing, a couple of things about his political and civil rights activities, because that's how I got to really know him. I met him first in 1972 when I was a graduate student in London and he was a student in Budapest. And I went back to Hungary the first time after my family left Hungary in 1956. This was my first visit back home. And I ended up in a little alternative theater witnessing a play. And in that play, there was a person, tall, thin person, walking on stilts back and forth. And I couldn't figure out what on earth was going on. Who this person was on stilts, who was tall to begin with, but on stilts, scraping the ceiling. Well, that person was László Rajk. And the theater group was the group that eventually, I think, became the Squat Theater in New York. I might be wrong with that, but he was participating there. And after the play, I was invited to the cast party, and lots of wine, lots of palinka, lots of cigarette smoke, which you can cut like you can't cut the Iron Curtain. And I met people who, lo and behold, 25 years later, were sitting in Parliament. One was the mayor of Budapest, another one was a minister. All of these people that I met at that early time eventually became members and active members of the first democratic political elite of Hungary. Prior to 1990, they were all dissidents. They were opponents, they were civil rights activists, and none was better known than László Rajk. He started an underground publishing house. He had a samizdat boutique that he ran out of his apartment. He was the moving string, the live wire of the democratic opposition to one-party rule in Hungary. He paid a heavy price for that activism. He was blacklisted for 20 years. He couldn't have his name put into any of the movies that he worked on. One time when I went back to Hungary on my usual trips to stay with one of my relatives, and I bumped into him in the yard. He was sweeping up the leaves and the dirt and the refuse. He was working as a janitor, a graduate engineer with a master's degree in architecture from McGill, working as a janitor in the dictatorship of the proletariat. So, suffice it to say, and I could talk for hours, but we don't have hours, that he played a prominent role in the demise of one-party rule in Hungary. He was elected to parliament in 1990 as a liberal member of parliament, and was a parliamentarian for 6 years. But ever since the first time I saw him in 1972, to this very moment, he's a dedicated civil rights fighter. He's not simply an artist, a writer, an architect, a man who draws crooked lines, but a man who fights for the rights of the disenfranchised, the discriminated, and those who are treated as outsiders. That work he continues to the very present. He is not in active politics in Hungary right now. He's primarily preoccupied with his artistic domains, but he's a resolute civil rights activist in Hungary to this very day. And the most recent example of that was when he, along with more than 100 other intellectuals, social scientists, artists, returned their state awards to the current government of Hungary because they wanted to protest the activities of this government, which involves, amongst others, providing high awards to people, to writers, to artists who preach hatred towards Jews, Roma, Muslims, refugees, gays, feminists, you name it. I respect him for that action, for his resolve in taking that step. And with that, I would like to close my introduction to